Most people don't lack intelligence. What they lack is control over their attention. Your mind is constantly being pulled in every direction: notifications, opinions, noise, pressure. And in that chaos, your ability to think clearly slowly weakens. But here's the truth most people never realize: becoming dangerously smart is not about learning more, it's about thinking better. And that starts with learning how to slow down. Stoicism teaches a simple but powerful idea: you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of your thoughts. The moment you understand this, everything changes. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin to analyze. Instead of being controlled, you begin to control. This alone separates the average person from someone who moves with quiet intelligence. Look at how most people respond to situations. Someone insults them, they react instantly. Something goes wrong, they panic. They are predictable. Easy to read. Easy to manipulate. But a stoic mind doesn't rush. It pauses. It questions. It asks, is this worth my energy? That pause, that small gap between stimulus and response, is where intelligence is built. You don't become sharp by consuming endless information. You become sharp by reflecting on what you already know. Most people scroll for hours but think for minutes. Flip that, and you'll already be ahead of the majority. Spend time sitting with your thoughts. Break things down. Ask yourself why things happen the way they do. That habit alone will make you more dangerous in any environment. Another truth you need to accept is this: emotions are powerful, but they are also unreliable. When you're angry, you exaggerate. When you're afraid, you shrink. When you're excited, you overlook risks. A Stoic doesn't ignore emotions, they understand them without becoming them. That's control. That's power. You want to be taken seriously? Then stop explaining yourself to everyone. Intelligent people don't waste energy trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding them. Silence is not weakness, it's discipline. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you observe more, you see what others miss. Most people talk too much because they're uncomfortable with silence. But silence is where clarity lives. Sit in it. Learn from it. When you're quiet, you notice patterns: how people behave, how they reveal themselves, how situations unfold. That awareness gives you an advantage that no book can teach. Here's something that will change how you see the world: people reveal themselves over time, not through words, but through patterns. Watch what they do repeatedly. That's who they are. A Stoic mind doesn't get fooled by promises or appearances, it looks at consistency. And once you start seeing patterns, you stop making the same mistakes. Control what you can. Let go of what you can't. It sounds simple, but very few people actually live this way. They stress over opinions, outcomes, and things completely outside their control. Meanwhile, they neglect their own discipline, habits, and mindset, the very things that shape their lives. That's backwards thinking. If you want to become dangerously smart, start taking responsibility for your reactions. Not your circumstances, your reactions. That's where your real power is. You can't control everything that happens, but you can always control how you respond. And over time, that response becomes your identity. Discipline is intelligence in action. Anyone can have good ideas. Very few people have the consistency to follow through. Waking up when you don't feel like it. Staying focused when distractions are everywhere. Keeping your word even when it's inconvenient. That's what builds mental strength. Stop chasing validation. The more you need approval, the easier it is to control you. Stoicism teaches independence, not just physically, but mentally. When you stop relying on others to confirm your worth, you become stable. And stability is rare. That alone makes you stand out. Learn to think long-term. Most people are trapped in short-term thinking. They want quick results, instant gratification, immediate rewards. But intelligence grows in patience. The ability to delay gratification, to endure discomfort now for a better outcome later, that's a skill that will put you ahead in every area of life. Your environment matters more than you think. If you surround yourself with noise, you become noisy. If you surround yourself with distraction, you become distracted. But if you create space for focus, reflection, and growth, your mind begins to sharpen naturally. Protect your environment like your future depends on it, because it does. One of the most powerful habits you can build is questioning everything. Not in a negative way, but in a thoughtful way. Why do I believe this? Is this true? Is this useful? Most people accept ideas without thinking. That's how they stay stuck. A sharp mind challenges assumptions. You don't need to prove you're smart. In fact, trying to prove it often does the opposite. True intelligence is quiet. It shows in how you handle pressure, how you make decisions, how you carry yourself. People will notice, not because you told them, but because your actions speak louder. Understand this clearly: being dangerously smart is not about manipulating people, it's about not being manipulated. It's about seeing clearly in a world full of illusions. It's about staying grounded when others are emotional. It's about thinking independently when others follow blindly. And here's the part most people ignore: it takes practice. You won't master this in a day. But every moment you choose awareness over reaction, discipline over impulse, silence over noise, you are building that edge. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. If you've made it this far, you're already different. Most people wouldn't have the patience. But you do. And that means you're capable of more than you realize. So don't just watch this and move on. Apply it. Start small. Pause before reacting. Observe more. Speak less. Think deeper. Stay consistent. And if you want more content like this, content that sharpens your mind, strengthens your discipline, and helps you move through life with clarity, make sure you subscribe. Because this is just the beginning of who you're becoming. Being dangerously smart is not about having the highest IQ in the room. It's about seeing what others miss, controlling what others can't, and thinking when everyone else is reacting. Most people move through life on autopilot. They talk too much, react too fast, trust too easily, and think too little. If you want to stand out, you don't need more noise, you need more control. The first shift is simple but rare: you stop reacting emotionally to everything. When someone insults you, ignores you, or tries to provoke you, your power is in your response, not your feelings. Most people give away their intelligence by reacting instantly. A dangerously smart person pauses. That pause is where clarity lives. That pause is where control begins. You also learn to observe more than you speak. People reveal everything when they feel comfortable. Their fears, their intentions, their weaknesses, it all leaks out. But if you're always talking, always trying to prove yourself, you miss it. Silence is not weakness. It's strategy. When you speak less, your words carry more weight, and people start paying attention. Another thing that separates you is emotional discipline. Not suppression, discipline. You still feel anger, frustration, and disappointment. But you don't let those emotions control your decisions. Most people ruin opportunities because they act based on how they feel in the moment. You don't. You act based on what actually moves you forward. You begin to think long-term while others are stuck in the moment. Short-term thinking is everywhere: quick money, quick reactions, quick validation. But dangerously smart people play a different game. You start asking yourself, will this matter in a week? A month? A year? That one question filters out 90% of distractions. You stop trying to impress people. This is where most people fail. They want to look smart instead of becoming smart. They want validation instead of growth. But the truth is, the moment you stop caring about being seen as intelligent, you actually become more intelligent. You focus on learning, not showing off. You also become selective with your attention. Attention is your most valuable resource, and most people waste it on things that don't improve their lives: drama, gossip, meaningless arguments. You don't engage in everything. You choose what deserves your focus, and that choice alone puts you ahead of most people. A dangerously smart person understands people. Not just what they say, but why they say it. You start noticing patterns. You see when someone is insecure, when someone is manipulating, when someone is genuine. And the key is, you don't always react to it. Sometimes the smartest move is simply knowing and adjusting your behavior accordingly. You learn to detach. Not from life, but from outcomes you can't control. This is where Stoicism becomes powerful. You do your best, you prepare, you act, but you don't let the result destroy your peace. Because once your peace depends on outcomes, you become easy to control. Detachment is freedom. You also become comfortable being underestimated. This is a hidden advantage. When people think you're average, they don't guard themselves around you. They reveal more, they expect less, and that gives you space to grow quietly. You don't need to announce your progress. You let your results speak. Another shift is how you handle failure. Most people avoid it or take it personally. You study it. You break it down. You ask, what actually went wrong? Because every failure carries information. And if you're paying attention, that information becomes your advantage next time. You stop chasing motivation and start building discipline. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Discipline is what keeps you consistent when you don't feel like it. And consistency is what actually builds intelligence over time. Not bursts of effort, but steady growth. You also understand timing. Saying the right thing at the wrong time is still wrong. Acting too early or too late can cost you. So you learn patience. You wait, you watch, and when the moment is right, you move with precision. You start protecting your energy. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every conversation is worth having. Not every relationship is worth maintaining. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you focused. Because your environment shapes your thinking more than you realize. You also question everything. Not in a negative way, but in a thoughtful way. You don't just accept opinions, trends, or popular beliefs. You think. You analyze. You decide for yourself. That independence is what sharpens your mind. And here's something most people ignore. You take care of your mind like it matters. What you watch, what you listen to, who you spend time with, it all feeds your thinking. If you constantly consume low-quality input, your thinking becomes low quality too. You become intentional about what you allow into your mind. You also learn the power of restraint. Just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. Just because you can react doesn't mean you must. Restraint is not weakness, it's control. And control is what makes you dangerous in a quiet, powerful way. At some point, you realize that being smart isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing what matters, ignoring what doesn't, and acting with clarity. That's it. Simple, but not easy. If you've been listening closely, you already know this. Becoming dangerously smart doesn't require anything extraordinary. It requires awareness, discipline, and control. That's what most people avoid, and that's exactly why it works. If you want more content like this, content that actually sharpens your thinking and separates you from the crowd, subscribe to this channel. Because most people are asleep mentally, and this is where you wake up. Stay sharp. You start to value clarity over complexity. Most people try to sound smart by making things complicated, using big words, or over-explaining simple ideas. But real intelligence is clarity. If you truly understand something, you can explain it simply. A dangerously smart person doesn't try to confuse people. They make things precise, direct, and easy to grasp. That's what earns respect. You become comfortable saying, "I don't know." This sounds small, but it's rare. People pretend, guess, or bluff because they're afraid of looking ignorant. But pretending blocks growth. When you admit you don't know something, you create space to actually learn it. That honesty with yourself is what accelerates your intelligence over time. You stop arguing to win and start thinking to understand. Most arguments are just emotional battles disguised as logic. People don't listen, they wait for their turn to speak. You do the opposite. You listen carefully, pick out what's useful, and ignore the rest. You don't need to win every argument. You need to get closer to the truth. You learn how to control your environment instead of blaming it. A lot of people stay stuck because they keep saying, "This place is the problem," or These people are the problem. But dangerously smart individuals adjust. If something is distracting you, you remove it. If something is slowing you down, you change it. You don't wait for perfect conditions, you create better ones. You start thinking in probabilities, not certainties. Life is not black and white. Nothing is guaranteed. Instead of asking, "Will this work?" you start asking, "What are the chances this works, and how can I improve those chances?" This way of thinking makes your decisions more realistic and less emotional. You pay attention to consequences before actions. Most people act first, then deal with the outcome later. You flip that. Before you speak, before you act, before you decide, you quickly run through the possible outcomes. This habit alone prevents a lot of mistakes that others repeat over and over. You become less available, but more valuable. Constant availability reduces your perceived worth. When you're always there, always responding, always engaging, people take you for granted. But when you're focused, selective, and intentional with your time, your presence carries more weight. It's not about playing games, it's about respecting your own time. You learn to separate ego from reality. Your ego wants to be right, wants to look good, wants to avoid criticism. But reality doesn't care about your ego. A dangerously smart person prioritizes truth over pride. If you're wrong, you adjust. If you fail, you learn. That ability to detach from ego is what keeps you improving. You understand that not every opportunity is worth taking. Some opportunities look good on the surface but come with hidden costs: time, stress, distractions. You become more selective. You start asking, "Is this aligned with where I'm going?" If it's not, you let it go, no matter how attractive it seems. You develop mental endurance. Most people can focus for a few minutes before they get distracted. You train yourself to stay locked in longer. Whether it's learning, working, or solving a problem, you build the ability to stay with it. That endurance gives you an edge, because most people quit mentally long before they need to. You also become harder to manipulate. When you understand your own emotions, triggers, and weaknesses, it becomes difficult for others to use them against you. You don't fall easily for pressure, guilt, or flattery. You see it for what it is, and you stay grounded in your decisions. You start measuring your progress privately. You don't need constant validation from others to know you're improving. You track your growth internally, your discipline, your thinking, your habits. This keeps you focused, because your progress is no longer dependent on external approval. You simplify your life. Not everything needs your attention. Not everything needs to be optimized. You remove what's unnecessary so you can focus on what actually matters. Simplicity is not laziness, it's precision. It allows you to move faster and think clearer. You learn how to recover quickly. Everyone makes mistakes, has bad days, or loses focus. The difference is recovery time. Instead of staying stuck, overthinking, or feeling sorry for yourself, you reset fast. You get back on track without wasting energy on what's already done. And finally, you understand that being dangerously smart is a quiet process. It's not loud, it's not flashy, and it's not instant. It's built in how you think, how you respond, and how you carry yourself every day. People might not notice it immediately, but over time, they feel it. And that's when everything starts to change. If this is the kind of mindset you want to build, the kind that gives you real control and real clarity, then stay here. Subscribe, and keep sharpening your mind.